Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. I sure do appreciate it when you come to visit and spend a few minutes with me. Today we're going to do something a little different. I'm going to respond to a viewer request or question. So I'm going to read you the question and then I'm going to make a comment about it. And then again, it's about some rods. So he has a very specific question, and I love this because it's a very detailed question about a very specific rod. So let's take a look here. This is from Zave3Rage Joe X. From my YouTube channel. Hey Joe, thanks for this series. Glad somebody decided to go into details on this line of rods. Well, you're very welcome, and I love doing it, and it's a lot of fun and interesting. He continues, question for you. I'm looking at getting the Flip Chat crank rod 7.3 heavy moderate fast as a do-it-all rod for the kind of fishing I do in my area. The lake I fish is very grassy, so mostly I fish Senkos, swim jigs, and frogs. But I also want the rod to have a more moderate action because I fish large jitterbugs too, as well, if you will, in the open water. Jitterbugs, wow, that's a blast from the past for me. This coming year I am also planning to get into punching the weed mats. So my question is, would that make a good do-it-all rod for the fishing I'm doing? My theory is it would have a good backbone for the jigs, punching, and frogs, but the slightly slower action would be good for casting the weightless Senkos and fighting fish on treble hooks of the jitterbug. Thanks in advance for your help. Well, Joe X, to shorten it up a little bit, I don't have the Legend tournament in the 7.3 heavy moderate, but I do have it in the Physics. I've had this rod for a little bit. So I think I can, in the Legend tournament Physics uses the exact same blanks, okay? So this rod has exactly the same action as the Legend tournament Flip Chat crank. The difference, of course, is in the handle. The Physics handle is pure carbon. It feels different when you hold it, and it transmits more sensitivity from the rod to the fisherman through this handle. But it weighs more. It's probably, this rod weighs probably 1.25 ounces more than the Tournament Legend that has the split cork handle. But as I've said over and over again, because of the way the weight is at this end, it makes the rod tip lighter. So that's the only difference. So the action of the rods would be exactly the same. So let me talk about how I use this rod. First of all, I use this rod for pitching and casting Senkos, but I use weighted Senkos. Now, what I'm going to do is cut a slice in here and show you a picture of a weighted Senko that I use. I buy the Mustad weighted hooks that has a little lead weight. When I pitch, I use the 1/8 ounce on a 3/0 or 4/0 hook, and I put a Senko on that. It has a screw lock. And again, you'll see the picture. And when I screw it in, it really holds it in. So I recommend, highly recommend, especially if you're fishing around grass and in grassy patches, that you go ahead and use a weighted Mustad hook. Again, you'll see the picture here. I've got some footage that I'm also going to add in this video of me catching a 7-pounder, not out of the grass, but out of flooded trees, right? I was casting, I think in that particular case, I actually casted the weighted Senko. Got a good one. Oh yeah. Oh no. He's in that tree good now. There he is. Oh. The random cast of a Senko. Holy cow. Oh Lord, look at that size of that fish. Nice. Look, he's huge across the back. Oh my goodness. Oh, look at the size of that fish. Oh my goodness. Oh Lordy. Oh, there we go. Oh, there we go. Look at that. That is a seven pounder at least. So I highly recommend this for fishing the weighted Senko in heavy cover because of the backbone, and you can also pitch it. So what I've noticed about heavy power rods is that they don't necessarily cast light baits very well, but they can pitch really, really well. So, you know, maybe Zabe Joe X will actually learn to pitch, and that'll be a fantastic thing for him to do. And what about swim jigs and frogs? Well, I've been looking for a frog rod that I would suggest I can skip. And I had used the Legend Tournament Power Finesse rod, which was a heavy power with extra fast tip. And I felt that, although I think it's 7'2" as well, and so this rod is 1 inch longer, I felt that that extra fast tip might have been too much for skipping frogs, and I wanted a moderate action rod. So that's why I got this. Now I haven't fished it yet with skipping and caught anything with it, but I think the moderate fast action helps me cast that frog and skip that frog a little better. So I think it'll cover frogs. I think it's going to cover pitching Senkos, and there's no question that this will do swim jigs, okay? Absolutely no issue with that. So I think this rod is a good all-around for that. Now let's talk about the jitterbug. The jitterbug is a heavy bait. I know this from my childhood, right? And so you're going to be able to cast it out there and work it over the top, and if you got good sharp hooks and you get a fish on there, I think this rod will handle it. I would probably think a better rod for the jitterbug would be their moderate, it's a heavy power with moderate action. It's the 7'3" heavy power moderate action, and it's a glass rod, but that's a specialty rod, okay? But that would probably work a little better for the jitterbug. Now let's talk about punching. Okay, so I don't punch out here in Arizona. We have a couple lakes on the Colorado River where I could punch, but I just never get there at the time of the year where the grass is up and tall. So, but let's talk about what this rod probably can do and why I think it would be a good fishing punching rod. So this rod is rated for 3/8 to 1 ounce. And so I'm going to do an analogy here because I'm going to go grab this rod right here. I've done a review on this rod. It's the Legend Tournament 711 heavy action with a moderate fast, heavy power with a moderate fast action. And oddly, this guy is rated from 1/2 ounce to 2.5 ounces. So why is this rod weighted, so much more heavy, rated for heavier weights? Probably because it's 7'11", and this rod is designed for punching. Now, I get that you don't want to buy a specialty rod and you want one rod that'll do it all, but this rod is heavy with a moderate fast. Its length is what gives it the power to pull. So it's not about punching through the mats, it's about getting the fish out of the mats, right? Because, and using heavier weights. So this rod here is rated up to 1 ounce. Well, what I've noticed on these St. Croix is you can probably go heavier. You can probably go 1.5 ounces if you need to on this rod. Now it's going to be a little shorter, but it has that moderate action. So when you get the hook set, right, and the fish grabs it, it gives you a little bit of give, just a little bit of give as you're setting the hook, and I think that's amazing. I love the moderate fast action on this power flipping and my regular 7'6" flipping. Love that action, and that action is the same here. So ultimately, I believe that this would suit you very well, and you could use the jitterbug. Probably if you had other topwater, like a big old spook or something. Again, spooks are heavy, and you can probably use that too. I don't think that's ideal, by the way. If you throw the jitterbug a lot, then you should look at their heavy power moderate glass rod from the Legend Tournament line. I think it's the 7'3" heavy moderate action. It is an amazing rod for throwing heavy topwater. I love it for throwing buzz baits, okay? So if you like throwing buzz baits, give that a shot. But I get it. If you're only going to pick one rod to start with and you're doing all the things you're doing, I think this will work just fine. Not only, I think it'll work really pretty fantastic. So this one or the Legend Tournament, right? They're slightly different. Between the two, a lot of this fishing you're doing here is actually mostly tip-up type of fishing. You might spend another, I don't know, $25 and get the the physics because of the way it's balanced, okay? That's just up to you, right? There's a little bit more, the balance is different, but the rod action is the same. So ultimately, I think this would work. And the only thing I really, and I can't completely comment on is punching because I just haven't done it. And I haven't tied like a 1 ounce bait on here and pitched with it. But this rod is rated up to 1 ounce, so you can probably put a 1 ounce sinker, a hook, and a beaver, you know, of some sort, and it'll probably work just fine. So I think this rod would be perfect for that. If you could specialize, you know, if you turn out that you love punching, then you would want to change up on your rod and get a specialty flipping rod, either the 7.6 or the 7.11, and really get into it. And then you have this one. So you could be working the weeds and you can punch with a rod like this, and you can have this guy set up for a swimming jig or set it up for a weighted Senko. Like that's something that, again, I'm going to splice in here, but the weighted Senko is really the way to go, especially because as it sinks, it does a beautiful job. And I'm not talking about adding a Texas Texas sinker. I'm talking about a weighted Senko where it's weighted in the middle of the hook, and when it goes down, it kind of does this kind of stuff. It's awesome. Awesome way to fish a Senko, by the way. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. Zabe Joe X. I hope that's useful, and I hope this came to you timely. It was such a good question that I wanted to do a video, so I appreciate it. As always, thank everybody for showing up. Please hit the subscribe button. Like it if you like this video, and also, you know, look, be free out there. We're Americans. We're meant to be free.